Hey, welcome back everyone. Today we're looking at the Italian Carcano Moschetto per Truppe Speciali Modello 1891 Modificato, or the Musketoon for Special Troops Model 1891 Modified. I know it's a little bit of a mouthful, but this is what is popularly known in the US Carcano market as the Model 9128 Troop Special. This is, of course, an incorrect designation, but it's much easier to sell something when it has a shorter name, and I'll mention where that name comes from in a little bit. Now, with that being said, this is a continuation of a series of presentations I've been doing on the Carcano family of rifles. The Carcanos, for those of you who are unfamiliar with them, are the main small arms used by the Italian military from the mid-1890s up until the end of World War II. I've organized these videos in chronological order of development in a playlist here on the channel, so I will link to that in the video description below if you're interested in watching them in order from the beginning. So the Model 91 Troop Special Modified is chambered in the 6.5 Carcano cartridge. It's 36 inches in total length, has a 17.8 inch barrel. Additionally, it has a turn down bolt handle right here. Of course, it has a bayonet lug, and then of course a separated nose cap and barrel band. Has a rear sight that graduates from 600 to 1200 meters. And then I'll also note that this particular model does have a cleaning rod. However, this particular example does not have one. Now, Italian rifle designations during this period are sometimes a little hard to follow and a bit nuanced. There are a lot of different terms used, like Truppe Special, Moschetto, Fucile, and so on and so on. I will do my best to make it as clear as possible and explain the chronology. Now, the term Truppe Special officially came about in 1900 when the Italian Ministry of War adopted a second carbine for its armed forces, the Model 1891 Truppe Special, or Truppe Speciali, which is this rifle right here. It was issued to supplement different non-standard infantry roles like artillery units, engineer units, alpine units, the Royal Navy, and so on and so on. These original Truppe Special carbines were produced from 1898 to 1919. With the Great War ending and Italy not having the financial capabilities to continue production, it was stopped. Instead, they focused their limited military resources on refitting and reusing old rifles. Take, for example, this Musketoon Modello 1891/24, or 1924, where they took long rifles and cut them down to carbine lengths. This meant they didn't have to start up new full-scale production lines, which would have been very costly. However, by the late 1920s, Italy was running low on existing stockpiles of rifles to refit. Furthermore, border disputes between independent Ethiopia and Italian Somaliland would eventually culminate into a larger conflict, so the Italian military apparatus saw the need to increase new arms production. While the 9124s were a temporary stopgap measure, they started brand new production of Truppe Special carbines starting in 1928. In this new run of production Truppe Specials, they took a number of different elements from the various carbines that existed at the time and basically made them uniform into one rifle. Most notably, they started standardizing the dual-point sling system, and they took the rear sight configuration from the original TS carbines and Moschettos. Okay, so in terms of its manufacturing history, the first 90,000 of these Truppe Specials were produced at Terni between 1928 and 1929. After that, an additional 358,000 were produced at Bretta, Gordon Valtrompia, Pietro, MBT, and FNA Brescia for a total of 448,000 rifles. As far as its operational history, this would have been used in the Second Italo-Ethiopian War and during World War II. Like we said earlier, these would have been used in support roles like artillery units and machine gun crews alike. And what made these actually advantageous is how light and compact they are compared to other rifles at the time. Imagine you're an Italian machine gun crew, you've got all this other equipment with you that you've got to carry, you're probably walking, far distances over very hilly terrain in the hot sun. The last thing you want is a bulky rifle. This sort of hits that sweet spot where you can be a rifleman but also be in a support role. Also, the 6.5 Carcano cartridge was much lighter than other ammunition used at the time, so you can carry more of it on your person, and it used a lighter load, so firing it in a shorter carbine wouldn't be too overwhelming for the shooter. So overall, it was a good and durable rifle for this type of combat role. Like I said earlier, these have been referred to as Model 9128 Truppe Specials by numerous collectors and retailers, but this was never an official designation by the Italian Ministry of War. It's just a convenient nomenclature as their production began in 1928. But let's go ahead and take a quick look at this particular rifle. So right now we are looking at the barrel and receiver. And I want to point out that on the left side of the barrel, we have a serial number right here, and then we have a CA, if you can see it right there, inside of a circle. This is an inspector's mark, and then we see faintly right here is an oval stamp with the crest of Savoy inside of it. This is the symbol of the Kingdom of Italy, so this stamp means it was accepted into government service. Now, a weird fact about this gun in particular is that the production year and manufacturer's mark are missing completely from the barrel. We typically see the production year on the right side right here. We'd usually see a steel, the steel manufacturer or the steel provider right there, and then you would see the manufacturer's mark right on this top facet right here. For some reason, unknown to me, they seem to have been scrubbed from this rifle. You can tell from the slightly deeper than normal indent here that the surface of each of the barrel facets was obliterated at some point, including the original serial number, which has been replaced with a newly stamped one. One explanation is that when new production of Truppe Specials started up again in 1928, they may have still been putting together carbines from old or scavenged parts. The receiver has a Brescia small acceptance stamp, as you can see right here, that was used up until 1919, which means the receiver is from an older carbine. The barrel face is also faceted. You can see it's faceted rather than round. By the late 1920s, newly made barrels were rounded off and not squared anymore. So the barrel face, again, was also faceted, which means it's from an earlier production. The barrel is from an earlier production time. So I would speculate that this rifle was partially made from recycled rifle parts into the new Truppe Special configuration. Of course, the stock is newly made to fit into this new production configuration as well. As far as who actually put together this rifle into the form it is in, I don't know, but likely one of the big manufacturers like Beretta or Turney. The other thing I'll point out here is this Made in Italy stamp on the receiver is an import mark when it came to the United States. Looking at the rear sight, this hasn't changed at all from the original production Truppe Special carbines. The standard battle sights are set forward for 300 meters and then adjustable for between 450 and 1500 meters. This is the standard sight graduation for every Musketto or carbine variant, except for the later models, which had fixed notch sights once they got into World War II. Now, as we're looking at the stocks, I do want to spend a few minutes looking at the evolution of the different types of nose caps on the Truppe Special carbines, starting with this World War I era nose cap, which has a sideways mounted bayonet lug and the sling swivel all on a singular piece. The theory behind having a sideways mounted bayonet was to prevent it from falling off as easily, but then they realized it made supply logistics difficult having two different types of bayonets in the supply chain. So yeah, you have this singular nose cap with the bayonet lug and the sling swivel all just in one piece. And then on the post-war 9124s, they switched to having a nose cap that just had a forward-facing bayonet lug and a separate barrel band. In most cases, they just reused the nose cap and the barrel band that was already on the Model 91 long rifles, because remember, these were cut down Model 91 long rifles. Again, this was just a way for them to save time from having to remake new barrel bands and nose caps for the rifles. In 1925, they also required that side-mounted sling loops be added to the left side of the rifle. So they had the original sling swivels right here, and then replace the barrel band with ones that could accommodate side-mounted slings. For mounted troops, it was suggested that a side-mounted sling was more practical and comfortable when slung over the back. Then a new circular directive, number 215, was issued in April of 1930, which required all Truppe Special carbines to be fitted with the dual-position sling bands, like we see here on the Truppe Special 1928 production modified. This was done because some units, like the artillery especially, requested underhand sling swivels. So with this new production of Truppe Specials, all new mid-barrel bands had to be issued that could accept bottom and side hanging slings. So originally they just made these with the barrel bands that just had side-mounted slings, but of course they requested bottom ones too. So this just made everyone happy and was easier for manufacturers to make one uniform type that they could put on all these rifles. You know, on that point, the mid-barrel band here keeps the handguard in place. So going back to having a singular nose cap with the bayonet lug and the sling swivel on it just didn't make sense like on the original TS carbines. We also have a channel right here for the cleaning rod, which just runs under the stock. This particular example, like we said, is missing its cleaning rod, so I will need to find a replacement at some point. As a side note, these were fitted with a standard model 1891 sword bayonet. This was the standard bayonet used by all Carcanos except for the Model 38s and the Muskettos with their underfolding bayonets. Just a quick glance at the buttstock, but this is pretty normal with the serial number repeated here. And then we have our dual point sling system for either a side mounted sling or a bottom one. And then of course we just have a standard butt plate. Again, I've organized these videos in chronological order, so if you're interested in watching them from the beginning, I'll direct you to the playlist in the description. Now the next rifle we'll take a look at is the Fucile Modello 1891/41, which is the last Carcano variant designed. You guessed it, in 1941. This Carcano goes back to its long rifle roots, as it was just barely shorter than the original Model 1891 used in the Great War. It also reintroduced adjustable sights, which were absent from Carcano models since 1938. So we'll take a look at this particular rifle next. The information I used for this video comes from the book, The Model 1891 Carcano Rifle, A Detailed Development and Production History. I'll leave a link to this book in the video description as a reference for you all. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.